In today's episode, I haven't just got a powerhouse of a human to come and speak with you, but I've also got a very, very dear friend of mine. She is none other than Annelise McCarthy, a renowned women's speaking coach with over 15 years public speaking, training, and experience. She's on a mission to subvert the dull and pretentious reputation of public speaking and transform this into an exciting and empowering skill. With a combined social media community of almost 90,000, Annelise is a necessary modern voice for women wanting to speak up and stand out. I can attest for the fact that Annelise is an incredibly captivating presenter, one of the best. Her facilitation style makes everyone feel engaged and immediately at ease. She is an advocate for embracing imperfect, challenging tradition, and giving fear the middle finger. I cannot think of a better human to come and really help us elevate our speaking skills. As a coach, we are constantly communicating with our clients, presenting in masterclasses, recording trainings, recording content for online. Whether you are speaking on stages or whether you are speaking to your clients, the power of speaking is such an underrated skill. And whilst it might not seem that sexy, Annelise is here and we're going to make it feel a lot more exciting, a lot more sexier, and really allow you to understand how you can become a better, more powerful, and more confident speaker. All right, enough from me. Let's dive into this episode. She Got Lucky podcast.
Thank you.
I like to start off every podcast episode with, rather than tell me how this started, I want to go back to a moment where somebody brought your success, your achievements, what you've built down to luck. One of those moments where someone says, oh, but yeah, you got lucky.
Wow, that is a great question. And I think I'm kind of frustrated that there's so many that come to mind, because I feel like, especially being a young female entrepreneur, it's very easy to attach success to luck. I think one that comes to mind for me is, I've got to think about how to word this. So as a public speaking coach, I speak publicly a lot. So I'm on stages a lot. And I recently had an experience where I was on quite a public stage. And it was for a platform that's quite big, a company that's quite big. And I had received many messages from people with the line of, you're so lucky.
Yes.
Oh my God, you're so lucky. And I know it's probably meant well, but I'm a big advocate that to be able to get to that stage and to have that opportunities don't come for no reason. They come when you're ready for them, right? And they come when you've worked for them. And I feel like that was a specific opportunity where I had worked my ass off to build my credibility. I had worked my ass off to build up my skill set in what I do, also to build up my reputation, knowing that it was a platform and a company that I was like, quote unquote, worthy of speaking at. And so to get messages where it was deduced to luck, I think is a little bit frustrating. But it's funny because I also recognize there are many moments in my own journey where I consider myself very lucky, like COVID for me. And everything that happened in 2020, I think many other entrepreneurs, I respect that COVID wasn't amazing for many people. However, I was one of the people that was very lucky from COVID because I actually benefited a lot from the world turning to an online platform. I could reach more people globally. I could coach more people worldwide, and my business kind of took off from there. So I think that this is why I love your podcast, because it's like almost a philosophical concept of like, what is this thing of like luck?
Yes.
And yeah, I think it's interesting because I think we deduce a lot of success down to this idea of luck, when in reality, it's a lot of damn hard work.
And it really is so deep-rooted because it's a common saying, oh, you're so lucky. This is amazing. I would love this. But a lot of the time, especially because of your age, it's easier for people who are perhaps older to say, oh, you got so lucky, because it makes them feel better. And
I have a lot to say about this topic.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet you do. And look, like in any case, I have a lot of the time people say, oh, you're so lucky because you don't have kids. You're so lucky because you're in this stage of your life. And it just goes, is it luck or is it choices?
I really, really love this. But rather than us getting sort of too deep on this conversation, because we could.
Trust us to already be into an absolute rant 2 minutes in. Yes.
I know. Seriously. I want to take a bit of a step. A public speaking coach. How does one become a public speaking coach? Is it just that you really love talking? Because, I mean, I love talking, but I would never, ever, ever look at public speaking coach. How does one become that?
That is such a great question. Public speaking is something, first and foremost, that did not come naturally to me. I was not born with this skill. Let me set the record straight. I was a very socially anxious kid. I had a speech impediment. I had a lisp. I had to go to a speech pathologist. But to become a public speaking coach, I'm very, very passionate about this topic, that you need to be trained in public speaking. You need to be a certified public speaking coach. And I think that there are a lot of people who consider themselves confident speakers. And so because of that, they teach other people how to be confident speakers. But I think what differentiates a confident speaker from a public speaking coach is that I have been trained in public speaking for over a decade. So that means that I have learned all the intricacies of the voice and how the voice works, the muscles of the throat, the muscles of the tongue, the mouth, the intercostal muscles in your diaphragm, like everything that is to do with how your voice is created, I had to study and I had to learn. I think in my experience as well, being a public speaker myself and spending years competing in competitions, I went to the World Championships for public speaking. I was public speaking captain in school. Like when it comes to public speaking, major nerd, and like was not the coolest thing ever. But I think one of the reasons I'm so confident in what I teach and I'm so passionate about what I teach is because I've studied it and I've learned about it for so long. And I'm also fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to practice so much public speaking, to be on so many stages and to speak in front of so many people. And so I think through lived experience, it's a combination. Lived experience of speaking, but also studying the craft of speaking. And I think with those two, you get the culmination of being able to coach other people in what is the masterful art form of public speaking.
Yes. I really, really love that. I love that you've made it so clear, the difference between someone who is, I can do a course, I can do a program, I can coach you on how to speak better. Whereas for you, there's so much behind the scenes. And again, this comes down to luck, is all these things are happening, working together seamlessly to get the result that you're wanting.
Absolutely. Like hand over heart, I think I've listened to over 3,000 speeches in my lifetime, because I also was a public speaking teacher in schools for 5 years. And each year I had to adjudicate competitions where I would listen to up to 50 to 80 speeches at these competitions. And you would be there with a critical mindset, like your critical hat on, listening to these speeches. What is their intonation and tonality delivering? What is their body language doing? How is their content resonating with their audience? What is their hook like? Do they have a strong call to action? How have they engaged people in the room? All of these things you pick up through practicing the skill set time and time and time again. And so I think through having that critical hat on for so many years, now when I listen to somebody deliver a speech or I have somebody sitting in front of me and I'm in that coaching position, it's very, I won't say easy, but it's easier for me to slip into that mindset of, okay, what are we doing with their voice? How are we fixing their tonality? How are we getting rid of their filler words? How are we adjusting their body language? Whatever the things might be, to maximize their impact on their audience.
Amazing. I want to take a bit of a sidestep, because for a lot of our listeners who are coaches themselves, they have their own craft. They're an expert in their area. And what happens quite often is this imposter mode. You could talk on your topic for hours. It's why you're a coach and what you do. But when it comes to delivering a presentation, when it comes to delivering a speech, a masterclass, a training, or perhaps getting on Reels, Instagram Reels, and doing a talking to camera, that scares the bejeebus out of so many people. And it's really sad, because I see them, especially my clients, I see how incredible they are, how powerful they are, but they're not sharing that with the world because of this fear to step out and really just own it. I would love to know, for these women, how do we start to change this? How do we allow ourselves to show up without this little voice in the back of our mind being like, yeah, but do you really know your shit? Yeah, but what if you sound stupid?
That's such a good question. So the first thing that comes up for me hearing that is we are all guilty of building the habits of becoming the person we want to be. Like your identity is not who you are, it is who you have learned to be. So if you're a coach listening to this and you're sitting here thinking, shit, man, that's me. Like I know my shit. And these are all the women I work with. They're intelligent women. They know their stuff. They're so qualified. They could talk about their topic all day long. But when it comes to actually speaking in front of people, whether that be on a physical stage, whether it be in a mastermind or in a webinar online, whether it be in front of their phone camera showing up for reels, whatever it might be, we start to have that hesitation and that doubt. And I think one of the biggest things I notice that people do is when we avoid the thing that scares us, it validates the fear. It makes the fear even bigger. So if you are embodying the habit of not showing up, if you are embodying the habit of not speaking up, if you are proactively getting in your own way every time the opportunity comes up to speak, no wonder you don't enjoy speaking. No wonder you find it hard. No wonder you don't enjoy it because you have completely psyched yourself out. You've brainwashed yourself. You've conditioned yourself to believe, yes, that's something I'm not good at. Oh God, I suck at that so bad. And it's not that you actually suck at it. It's that you've convinced yourself that you do because every time an opportunity comes up, you'll pass it aside to somebody else or you'll avoid it or you'll run away from it. You don't face it head on. And we build confidence in a skill through actively doing the skill. It's one of the really shitty things about the work that I do. I wish I had a magic pill that I could give people to be like, hey, babes, take that, down it. That is going to make you speak confidently without doing any of the work. You're fucking welcome.
I feel like we've just discovered you could do a product and it doesn't, it could be like a sugar tablet.
I would be a wealthy woman.
No, but like hear me out. It doesn't, there's no, and you can say, this does not have anything in it. But it's like when you take this, I want you to, in your mind, like it's like a placebo sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like.
That reminds me of that scene in Harry Potter where Harry drinks the liquid luck and he didn't actually give him the potion and he wins. And it's that placebo of like, oh my God, it was the liquid luck when actually it was just him believing that he did it. I love that. We've got a marketing thing on our hands for sure.
I know, right here. Okay.
Very unethical, but anyway.
No, we'll be quite clear that it's.
yeah, we'll be very clear. This does not work.
But it will work if you believe.
But you still should buy it. Yes. It's true. Well, look, let's take that framework of belief because it's one of the really key things when we do speak in front of people. So I'm a big believer that we don't have a fear of public speaking. I talk about this all the time. This is not new for people who've listened to me speak before. We don't, as a society, have a fear of public speaking. We have a fear of judgment from others when we speak. That's it. If I was sitting here alone right now in this room and there was nobody else in here, I would probably speak far more eloquently and far more confidently as if I were a woman that didn't enjoy speaking. Mm-hmm. I love speaking. That's my full-time job. But if I was somebody who didn't enjoy it, who didn't like speaking in front of people, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd speak pretty damn well on your own, at home, in front of the mirror, whatever it might be. When we bring somebody else into the equation, whether it be people watching your videos online, whether it be your colleagues listening to you at work, whether it be a room full of strangers and you're up on stage, we introduce the pressure and the expectation and the fear of judgment that you're going to suck. I'm going to be shit. I'm going to make a mistake. Oh my God, what do I do? And then we catastrophize and we freak out. I recently shared a video which echoes one of my core beliefs that I was mentioning before. And that is, you mentioned before, what if I make a mistake? You will. But what if but Annelise, you don't get it. Like, but what if I stuff up? Oh no, babe, I do get it. And you will. You will. Time and time and time again. Because you know what? It's actually a rite of passage as a public speaker to fuck up consistently. It is a rite of passage to become a confident speaker, to make mistakes time and time and time again. The question is, do you have the balls, the courage, the audacity, the bravery, the determination to make those mistakes publicly? Because a lot of people won't. And it's the fear of making those mistakes that stops people from showing up, that stops people from raising their hand in a meeting, that stops people from creating the video and pressing post and not putting it in drafts. Yeah. Very guilty of doing that. Right?
Well, we know what we're doing later.
It's true. But I feel like those people who are really struggling with that internal voice. It's that point of you are creating the reality that you're living in. That is the habit that you are building for yourself. And if the identity that you currently have is, I'm not a confident speaker, I don't enjoy speaking, and I avoid speaking at all costs, the question is then, all right, how can we change that identity into somebody who does enjoy it? So we're looking at your daily habits. We're looking at what your self-talk is saying to you. How can we start to reframe that, start to challenge that? Like I always ask, are you challenging your BS, your belief systems, and your bullshit?
Can we repeat that again?
Yeah.
Are you challenging your BS?
Literally.
I love it.
Literally, because so often we take it as verbatim and truth and the Bible, and we don't challenge it. Like, oh yeah, of course I'm bad at that. Says who? Says who? You decide that. You. So if you want to make change on your internal self-talk, on the beliefs that you have, that has to start with you and the habits that you're building every day.
So habits. Let's talk about some habits.
Oh gosh, my habits? Or I did not sign up to this episode.
No. No, let's talk about some habits that when speaking, our nerves can take control and these habits can take over. Now, I'm talking and we can go through a few of them, but the first is filler words, fillers. I've always found watching back, whether it's a videographer, whether it's literally setting up your phone with a camera, if you are ever doing a training, you're presenting, record yourself, watch it back, listen so that you can improve. And recently, I have become very aware of some filler words that I have somehow added to my vocabulary. And when I'm saying them, it's like my brain switches off for a moment.
Yeah.
I have no idea how many times I'm saying it, where I'm saying it. And for me, a few of them over the years have been obviously like, and at the moment, right.
I'm guilty of right. I'm guilty of right. I say that.
You know? And oh my goodness, yes. And once I became aware of it, I've seen so many other women who I'm like, you say it too. And it doesn't take away from their authority. But once I heard it, I was like, I could do a really bad drinking game with this.
Yes.
You know, like the How I Met Your Mother, but I could do it like, oh boy. But filler words, we say it because why? Why? First of all, why do we say filler words? Where does it come from?
Great question. So filler words are subconscious. It's a really important first thing to note about a filler. You don't recognize you're using it. If we were conscious of using a filler, we wouldn't use a filler, but they're subconscious. So why we use them, for different people, it's for different reasons. So for some, it's circumstantial. So I'll give you an example. I grew up in an all-girls school, and there was one particular filler word that as a student who was attending public speaking classes, who had her fillers ingrained out of her since the age of 8, I became very attuned to this particular filler. And being in this school, surrounded by young girls, every day at lunchtime, you would hear this one filler come out, and it would be, oh my God, like it was just like the best thing that I had ever done. Because no, truly, it was phenomenal because we were, okay, so we were sitting in class, right? And then they came through became, I think for me, that was my filler awakening. It was when I first started to really hear it time and time and time again. But that's an example of a circumstantial filler, is when everybody around you is using a certain filler, you're a product of your environment. So you're going to absorb the language that they are using. So I have certain clients I've worked with who, around their friends and family, will use fillers all the time. But they show up at work and they almost evaporate. And they're like, why the hell does this happen? And well, that's a circumstantial filler. So when you're surrounded by certain types of people that are using a filler, you're more likely to use that filler, right? We also, your question was why, so they can be circumstantial. Another reason why is because we use it as a way to replace pause. So a lot of people have a fear of pause, a fear of lull in a conversation. So instead of pausing, we will, just continue on and fill the silence so that it doesn't create any pauses in the conversation. And then we'll continue and just keep going on. So we're removing the silence and the pause, which actually is so foundational for confident speaking, because pausing not only gives you a chance to think about what you're saying next, but it also ironically communicates confidence. Because when you pause and you take your time, it shows, I know what I'm saying. I'm unafraid to take up space here. I'm unafraid to take my time and to think about what I want to say to go on to my next point. So that's why pausing is really important, but we often use fillers to replace the silence. We can also use fillers when we don't know what we want to say. So if you have a mental blank or if you're completely stuck on where to go next, we'll just
You are definitely, I was like, is she doing this for real? Is she doing this for show?
Doing it for show. Doing it, but the demonstration is on, right? But that's why we do it. We do it because we forget what we're going to say or we don't know what we want to say next, right? Now, funny thing about mental blanks, because I get a lot of people who ask me, I always get mental blanks. Why do they happen? How do I get rid of them? Because it's one of the main reasons that a filler will come up is when we're stuck with what to say.
I love this.
I'm going to get a little bit
Settle in.
on you here.
Settle in.
So, okay, let's go. So the fear center of your brain is your amygdala. So when you feel fear, when your fight or flight is activated, your amygdala is activated. So what that means is you start to have a reaction in your central nervous system. You get the sweaty palms, shallow breathing, all the nervous kind of reactions, right? Now, don't ask me where exactly in the brain, but in proximity to the amygdala is the hippocampus. Now, the hippocampus stores your memory. And a really interesting thing happens in the brain when we feel fear. It blocks the pathway to the hippocampus. So when you are freaking out, your ability to remember things disappears. So you get a mental blank. So it's literally a scientifically proven bodily reaction as to why you have a freeze. So we're like fight, flight, flow, freeze. Why you freeze when you speak is because your brain has actually blocked off that neural pathway to the hippocampus. You actually can't access any of the information in your brain. So we're trying to really figure out, well, how can we reduce the reaction of our amygdala? How can we calm our central nervous system so we feel more in control of our body? You do that, you feel more calm, you use less filler words, the world becomes a much better place.
Love it. So
and you feel much better in it.
to do that. Now, I know that you have a whole routine and we're not going to go into that today because, oh my goodness.
That's why when you said habits, I was like,
Yeah, seriously, her pre-speaking routine. Anyway, I want to talk about, though, before you, for example, get up on stage, before you get on a call to do a training, before you hit record, to ensure that you are in more of a calm state. What do you recommend? What do you say to your clients?
Great question. So if we're trying to feel more calm, there are two key things that will influence that. Your physiological body and your psychological mind. So we'll start with physiological. So that's a lot to do with your breath. And a lot of people talk about it, and unfortunately, it's not new.
It's also not sexy.
It's not sexy. I know. Breathing is just like, oh, breathing. Okay. However, many people are actually breathing incorrectly. It's funny, actually. I saw a video about this a few months ago, and one of the comments was, fuck, don't tell me I'm breathing wrong too. And that's something I've got to work on as well. And it's true. So what we often do as human beings when we get stressed is we do something called clavicular breathing. So that is through our chest. So if you can actually hear my breath, it's so shallow, so tight, it's so constricted. It sounds really gross, like at least to me. Like that just sounds not nice at all. But when we get stressed, this is what happens. The shoulders raise, all of the tensions in our chest, in our clavicles, in our throat, and we store all of our tension in our chest. What we want to do when we breathe is we want to breathe diaphragmatically. So diaphragmatic breathing is the correct, in quotation marks, proven way to breathe, to speak efficiently and to calm your central nervous system. So this is breathing through the diaphragm. Now, a lot of people who don't know how to breathe through the diaphragm, we're simply learning to activate your abdominal muscles and your stomach muscles when you breathe. So a little visual prompt I give is if you can imagine you have bricks on your shoulders when you breathe, so you can feel the weight of the bricks on your shoulders.
I'm going to do it right now.
And when you, yeah, literally. And when you do, what you'll do, just notice my tag. What you'll do when you breathe is you'll notice that the shoulders have to stay down and you're focusing on the out and in of your stomach muscles. Another way is you can lie on the floor, put a book on your stomach and train yourself to move the book up and down.
I'm just imagining up on stage, like being like, one moment.
Yeah, one moment, guys. Let me just grab out my book.
Anyone have a book? Can I love that.
No. Okay, all good. We'll just grab this one here.
That.
And yeah, so that's a really great way that you can start to activate your diaphragmatic muscles. So breathing's really important. There's so many different breath techniques. I won't get into them all now, but training yourself to breathe diaphragmatically is going to be one of the key ways that you do that through your physiological body. Psychological, though, is the one that often, ironically, psychs us out the most before we speak. So I really want you to ask yourself, what is the narrative? What's the story that's going on before you speak? Before you sit down and record in front of a camera, before you stand up and speak on stage, before you ask a question in the Zoom meeting, what is the story? What is your brain telling yourself? And a psychological tip that I love, I'll give you 2 quick ones. We use what if a lot. What if this happens? What if I make a mistake? What if? When we switch what if to even if, we're taking power and autonomy back in that situation.
I love that. Let's come back to that. Let's repeat that again. If we swap out what if with even if. So what if I make a mistake and people laugh? Even if I make a mistake and people laugh,
I'll be okay.
I'll be okay.
I will be okay. Even if the PowerPoint fails and I lose access to all tech, it's not the end of the world, and it's a learning for next time to have my fucking computer plugged in, right? So even if shit goes wrong, you will be okay. And I want you to remind yourself on your public speaking journey, be so grateful for the mistakes, because every mistake, that is your muscles. Like, you know, when you train in the gym,
yeah,
getting your like pump on, clearly that's like so familiar with what that looks like. So glad this is a podcast, not visual.
Oh, it is.
It is. Oh, shit. When you go to a gym and you're like pumping iron, right? What's the term? You're tearing your muscles for them to repair. You're building up strength.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing here. So by you making mistakes, you're actually getting stronger in public speaking, because every time you make a mistake, you're building that resistance to fear of judgment, that resistance to fear of failure. And you're teaching yourself time and time again, this has happened, but I'm okay. I got through it. It was fine. So that was the first one, what if to even if. And the second one is a technique that a lot of athletes use. It's called mental rehearsal. So the Olympics are happening right now. So I imagine a lot of athletes are going to be using this before they go on the starting line. And mental rehearsal is where you visualize what you're about to do going the best possible way. So the most positive reenactment of the situation you're walking into that you could imagine. So for public speaking, it might be, let's say you're hosting a webinar. You start the webinar, you're in the best mood ever, you're smiling, so many people have joined, you're having the best time, you're telling jokes, they might be a bit awkward. Knowing me, there are a lot of dad jokes, but they land, you laugh at yourself, you keep going, you're moving through your content really well, yada, yada, yada. Now, I always get the question, Leash, and people are like, yeah, but Annelise, what if that doesn't happen? What if you've done all this work, all this mental prep, and it doesn't go positively? And I do make mistakes and people don't laugh at how is that even helpful? And to that I say, is it better to prepare for the worst and train your brain into believing it's going to go terribly? Or is it better to step into a situation with the energy of this is going to go amazingly? I'm going to be the highlight of their day. I add value to every room I walk into. My voice matters. I'm fucking magnetic. I'm confident. Whatever your mantras are, which is better? Because I would argue, and a lot of my clients would too, that when you walk into something with a positive frame of mind and you've rehearsed it in the best possible way, you increase your likelihood of that becoming a reality.
I really, really love that. And
I could see you nodding along to all of that, like soaking it up.
I'm like a bobblehead, honestly. Every time I've got a guest, and we get the best guests. So, every time I do have a guest on, I'm there. I'm like, yeah, this is so good.
I want to validate you just picked up a filler word. That was really cool.
Oh, it's there.
Well done you.
It's so there. Okay. So look, I wanted this to be a really action fire episode, a really good taste for someone, whether you are considering speaking more, whether you're considering public speaking, whether you're considering prioritizing more trainings. I wanted this to be a really easy way for them to feel more confident approaching it. So I want to finish the episode on some key aspects, some key features to, like, if we had a recipe, all right, let's put our chef hats on, girl.
Chef hat is on.
Wee. Okay, so we're going to make the perfect confident speaker souffle.
Okay.
Right? What are we putting in? What are the ingredients?
Okay, well, first correction, let's scratch perfect off the recipe.
My bad.
No, and it's important you've said it, because a lot of people, when they start the recipe and they start putting all the delicious ingredients together, the outcome they're expecting is make me a perfect speaker. And I hate to pop your beautiful bubble, but there ain't no such thing. Like, literally find me a perfect speaker. I will wait. And some people will say, oh, but Tony Robbins, oh, but Gary Vaynerchuk, oh, but Mel Robbins. They are phenomenal motivational professional speakers, but they all have their own imperfections. It's about how can we create your confident voice? How can we create your authentic voice? That is the recipe, right? Okay, so if we're doing this rapid fire, we're going to look at it as a Venn diagram. So you get out your recipe sheet for me. Get your pen. We're going to draw
this was really exciting and sexy until you said bring out your Venn diagram.
Listen, Venn diagrams are sexy, okay? We can make them sexy. Shut the fuck up, okay? We're getting out our diagram. We're drawing our 3 circles.
Okay.
Top circle, you've got mind.
Yep.
Then you've got body.
Yep.
Then you've got voice. If you have these 3 components working together, you are far more likely. You are far more likely. There you go. See, even I fuck up. Never said I was a perfect speaker. You are far more likely to increase your likelihood of becoming a confident speaker. Now, here's a mistake a lot of people make. They think of public speaking. They think of voice. And that's the only thing they think of. They think of how am I speaking? What am I saying? How is it sounding? But they're forgetting, actually, babe, your body language is actually 55% of communication, based on Albert Mehrabian's theory. So if communication, the weighting of that is predominantly your body, not even your voice, and you're only focusing on your voice, you're missing out on a whole opportunity to build a confident presence in a room because you're just focusing on one component. So you want to work on all 3. So mindset, what is your mind telling you? What's your narrative? What's your story? How are you actively strengthening that mental muscle? I'm doing a little bench press. Is that even... You know what? We're just going to fucking move on. I'm not even going to put a label to the movement that I'm doing because that just shows I do not know what I'm talking about. Like public speaking, I do. In the gym, maybe not. Anyway, so
back to the souffle.
Quick, back to the recipe. Back we go. When you are working on your mindset, are you strengthening your mentality? Are you reshaping the habits that you're doing every day? Building on becoming a public speaker is about building on the identity of being a public speaker. So I ask you and I challenge you, what are you doing every day to work towards that identity of becoming a confident speaker? That's your mindset shit. What are you telling yourself and how are you actioning it every day? Now, your body language is nothing to do with what you say and how you talk, but it's everything to do with your body and what you're physically doing when you're speaking. So we're talking about eye contact, facial expression, gestures, posture, how you walk into a room. The energy of how you walk into a room is everything. I often hear the word magnetic thrown around. Now, I believe somebody who has magnetism is magnetic when they don't speak. It's an energy, even when they're just sitting or they're standing in a room sipping on their beveragino, right? You don't need to be saying anything to make an impact and to make a positive impression on somebody. One of my favorite sayings is the most confident person in the room is the one with the steadiest heartbeat. And that it comes back to your breath. So we're talking about body. It's not only body language, but it's your central nervous system, your breathing, calming that amygdala that we spoke about earlier. So that's your body. Your voice is where we get into all the fun technical things that I love talking about, like your pitch and your projection and your tonality and your intonation. In Australia, a lot of people go up at the end of their sentences.
Oh my gosh, I'm there.
It's very common.
I'm there. I think
up.
I did not do well in my German exam at the end of school because of this. Because of this.
Really?
Because I would keep. I got the German. I got everything right. I was good with my.
I got the German. Das ist gut, ja. We have bugs in German.
Yes, good. But seriously though, that in itself, in Australia, we finish so many of. And if you want to do that, then oh, now I'm not going to be able to do it on the spot.
No, but it's true.
But it's like, and then I went to this and it really does. I notice it as well. We do this and instantly it's like you're questioning yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it's subconscious. It's a subconscious habit, just like fillers. So we're really working on strengthening our ability to work on that through voice recording, video recording. 2 tips you mentioned earlier, which are phenomenal, so powerful. It's free. Like you have that in your arsenal every single day to use your phone to voice and video record yourself and watch it back. You don't know what your voice is doing? Get your phone out and you will learn very quickly what your voice is doing when you speak. Sometimes we don't often like what we see. That's okay. I'm sorry. Did the habit develop overnight? I'm sorry, did you just start miraculously speaking like this yesterday? No, you didn't, babe. It's like 15, 20, 25 years of habit. So let's have a bit of compassion, a little bit of patience, a little bit of self-love, that if the habit didn't develop overnight, it's not going to leave overnight. Public speaking is a journey. Falling in love with your voice is a journey. And if you approach this journey with impatience, if you approach this journey with high expectations, you're going to give up pretty quickly and you're going to be disappointed pretty quickly. So you've got your sexy Venn diagram for your recipe, but how I would sign it with my like little pen at the bottom is I would say, I will practice these 3 with compassion, with patience, and with self-love or kindness, whatever word resonates with you. Because you cannot become a confident speaker without having a compassionate relationship with yourself in the process.
Take a bow. That was...
Do you like that recipe? Was that a good recipe?
That was... Take your hat off. Take your chef's hat off.
Chef's hat coming off.
Chef's kiss. That was absolutely beautiful. Well, look, what an episode. What an episode.
An episode, spoke about Germans.
I've got all sorts. Anyway, but I really, really appreciate you so, so much. You're such a dear friend of mine. I
appreciate you too, Lish.
I know that you are someone... I say this with the guests almost every time on this podcast, but I just really find myself drawn to people who are so, like, they are just, there's something in them. There's something in them that they not necessarily have realized to the full extent yet, but they're just like evolving into the most beautiful butterflies. You were that.
You call me a beautiful papillon? Is that it in French? Continuing the French name?
Papillon or something.
Papillon?
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't speak French. Don't come for me.
Yep. All right. But no,
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you very, very much. We're going to put your details below. How does someone come and find you? How does someone come and work with you? Because they're like, oh, this sexy Venn diagram. Tell me more.
Look, I don't know if you'll find the sexy Venn diagram there, but we can make one together. So you can find me anywhere at Her Speaking Coach. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Come join me. It's a little chaotic, but we have fun. LinkedIn, I post public speaking tips every single day. Instagram and TikTok, you will find me sharing lots of videos, strategies, tips, or whatnot of how to show up confidently, be the most confident version of you. I also love talking about things like assertive communication, boundary setting, self-love, and confidence. So if that's your vibe, that's a good place to be. And finally, I have my public speaking foundations course, which is called Speak with Confidence, which you can purchase if you go to www.herspeakingcoach.com. You will find the link there. And I cannot wait to support you on your speaking journey.